Hey everyone, this is Justin from the Fantastic Mr. Podcast. I just wanted to hop on here and let you know that we are switching to bi-monthly episodes. So instead of getting an episode each week, we're going to do 2 episodes a month. This will make it a little bit easier for those who are editing the podcast, as well as we can stock up on some episodes and get more episodes out to you on time from here on out. So please bear with us as we make this transition, and we hope you have a fantastic day. Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of the Fantastic Mr. Podcast. Today we're going to go back in time just a little bit to talk about the Avengers and their MCU debut all the way to now to and into the future of the Avengers movies and where they're heading and all that good stuff. So let's take a quantum leap, which is a TV show, but you know, the quantum realm, blah, 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 and talk about the Avengers. So, the Avengers, what do you guys think? Just
what do I think?
What do you think?
Before we talk about the Avengers, you got to talk about where it all started, and that's with Iron Man.
Robert Downey Jr., baby.
I don't know, man.
That's the movie that revolutionized, I think, superhero movies to what we know today and became commercially successful.
I think it started with the Japanese Spider-Man.
The Japanese Spider-Man from the 70s.
I would have loved him to be in No Way Home. That would have been sweet. Anyway,
I'd be down for like a reboot Japanese Spider-Man
with the mecha and everything.
That'd be
right?
Fun if they just went full ham on it and just like totally played into it.
I mean,
I feel like that'd be really fun.
They should just integrate him into the Power Rangers. He pilots a giant robot too. So the Avengers was, based off the Marvel comic, which I believe in the Marvel comic, it was the same ones we have now, minus Black Widow and Hawkeye, but add Ant-Man, because if I'm not mistaken, Ant-Man started the Avengers in the comics. But of course, Ant-Man didn't come into phase 3 or whatever the phase was. Then we had 2008, Iron Man comes along, and there was a lot of crap that happened before Iron Man released. Like Jon Favreau really wanted Robert Downey Jr. and the studio didn't want Robert Downey Jr. because of his drug, his past with drug abuse and all that stuff. But then and then it's also Iron Man. Like comic book nerds at the time knew who Iron Man was, but the casual movie watcher didn't really know who Iron Man was.
Yeah, pop culture is just like Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man.
Yeah. And so, and the Incredible Hulk. And so.
And X-Men.
Oh, yeah. Well, X-Men had come out by then. So, yeah, I mean, X-Men I don't think was as popular as the rest of them. But luckily for everyone in the world, including Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man made the big bucks. And so that kind of started off. And then, of course, the Incredible Hulk, at the end of Incredible Hulk, he comes in, Robert Downey Jr., or Tony Stark comes in and it's like, we're forming a team and all that stuff. So that kind of sparked the whole Avengers thing. How old were you guys when Iron Man came out?
Geez. When was that? 2008? 2008?
Mm-hmm. 2008, yeah.
Man.
You know how old I was? I was like 21 or something.
I was probably freshman or sophomore year of high school.
I think I was like 15.
God.
Yeah.
How are we friends? Goodness.
I was going through puberty, my dude.
At 15 years old?
Bloomer,
oh,
I was a late bloomer.
Okay. I remember not going to see Iron Man when it came out in theaters, but my mom did, and she really, really liked it. And then I finally saw it. Of course, I was like Spider-Man all the way. I think the only movies I didn't ever see in theaters were Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, and Shang-Chi.
Really?
Yeah. After that, yeah.
I vividly remember seeing The Incredible Hulk in theaters.
Although in retrospect,
the only time I've seen it.
In retrospect, I wish I would have saw Shang-Chi in theaters because it was the story was okay, but the CGI and everything about visually, Shang-Chi looked great. Didn't care for the story. Don't even really care for Shang-Chi, to be honest with you. And I really don't care for Awkwafina. I don't know how she keeps getting cast in movies, but whatever.
He's really understated. Even in Marvel, there's some there's some movies that I feel are haven't really like made an impact, like Shang-Chi, the Eternals.
Oh, the Eternals.
Um,
Eternals was a
um,
cluster.
I feel like yeah, like Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals during the Phase 4 saga, all kind of like came out and people were like, meh, and no one really paid attention and or cared about
Yeah.
the story.
I saw the
Yeah,
Eternals.
Black Widow should have came out earlier, way earlier. I
Oh
think.
yeah, but luckily for Black Widow, she had already made a name for herself. So it's like even though there was a movie, we all know who Black Widow is, and we all love Black Widow. It's fine. But with
No
Shang-Chi,
superpowers.
yeah, exactly. With Shang-Chi and the Eternals, it's like the Eternals, for one thing, has way too many characters. And there's a guy that shoots lasers from his fingers. It's like, I don't know. It's just a weird. Have y'all seen the Eternals? I know we're not
I
supposed to
have.
talk about this, but
Yeah.
the Eternals is a weird movie.
It doesn't feel like a Marvel movie.
It's a little. It feels like
Why?
It feels more
lack
like
of
it feels I feel like it
Quips.
fit more into like the Sony universe than it would the MCU. Like I don't know, just the way that the production value and the way that they shot it felt more like a Sony production than it was Disney Marvel because
That
I don't know,
early
there was
2000s
it was a
feel.
lot more like I wouldn't say it was necessarily like gritty, but it was a lot more like it wasn't nearly as flashy as the
Fixie.
majority of
No,
Marvel movies these days.
I would agree with that.
It was very very understated compared to what you like. You think of Ant-Man, Quantumanium, and Guardians of the Galaxy, and you know
Everything.
Thor, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. They're very over the top. The Eternals was very like it was almost like I dare say almost like a character movie. It was like it was really just focused on more like their relationships. Like obviously they had the bad guy at the end, and they had kind of like their action piece. But even their action piece, I mean, they ended up basically just fighting on an empty beach, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, that was probably best.
There wasn't portals. There wasn't like a whole bunch of crazy stuff. It was just like a whole bunch of people who used to be friends.
They get back together.
Yeah.
Laserfinger guy becomes a Bollywood star. I
Do
don't
you
know.
think that change is a good thing or a bad thing? Did you guys like that?
I didn't.
From
I
the
mean,
usual
honestly,
quippy, formulaic.
I honestly, I
Marvel
kind of
movies?
liked it. Out of the Phase 4,
Phase 4.
I think the Eternals is probably one of my favorites besides Spider-Man No Way Home, obviously. And I might be a little controversial on this, the Multiverse of Madness. I think
Why is
those
that
two are
controversial?
probably my favorites. Huh?
Why is that
I've heard people
controversial?
don't like it.
Oh,
I've heard people don't like
Why?
it.
I mean,
Because
I really
it's
enjoyed it.
Raimi's unique approach to.
Yeah,
I
dude,
guess so.
the
Yeah, a lot of
movies?
people. I think a lot of like
I don't
feminists don't like
understand.
it because they made
a woman,
Wanda's
the
prime
villain.
motivation was like being a mother. So they don't like that she was like her motivated by motherhood. And then they don't like
OMG.
and then they also didn't like that they made her a villain. And then they also thought,
Is it not
I guess
comic accurate?
they
or
didn't huh?
Is that not comic accurate? That she
No, I
becomes
think
a
it is.
villain?
I just think it just rubbed
People the wrong way.
the wrong way.
I think it made people uncomfortable, perhaps. I mean, and then people were complaining about the heroes that were destroyed in 2 seconds, basically.
And there was just some, if you like break down some of like the motivations and things, there's really some like large plot holes where you're just like, well, honestly, if they just did this, she would have been just fine. Like, why didn't Doctor Strange just help her find a universe that
Needed
the kids
a mother.
lost their mom? You know, things like that. So some people
Then we wouldn't have a movie.
on it.
But hey, we got John Krasinski as Mr.
Watch
Fantastic.
WandaVision.
WandaVision is fantastic.
I think that's my favorite of Phase 4 that I've seen.
I'll sing as far as the TV shows go, WandaVision and Loki, which I don't know if Loki's the very last one of Phase 4, isn't it?
I don't know. I stopped paying
I'm not
attention
sure.
to phases.
But
It's definitely a part of Phase 4.
WandaVision just even like because I'm like a production nerd, right? So I love like how movies are made, not just watching them. And just from like a production, WandaVision is incredible. Like the work that they did. Every episode is like a different decade, right? They actually used like period accurate equipment from the time that it was representing to make the film. So when they did like the 1940s, they literally built a studio audience set. They used 1940s cameras. They used 1940s lights. They used 1940s production methods to, use the makeup on Vision and get him the proper color so it was in black and white. Like, and they did that for every decade. That's incredible. I just love that. But that's a great story in of itself.
I stopped paying attention to phases a long time ago.
I think it's important to realize that there's phases, but I guess that you don't need to know them to get the gist of the movies. But I could see how it's confusing for people.
I only use it as reference of where are we talking about? Because there's so many. It's like, okay, if we're talking about phase one or whatever, I'm like, okay, we're talking about mid 2000s. And then if we're talking about phase four, we're talking about a couple years ago. That's just how I use it. I'm
just going to talk about the movie. I'm not going to be like, well, we're going to talk about phase one. I'll be like, we're going to talk about Iron Man to this movie, to the Avengers, because that was basically phase one. Speaking of the Avengers, let's get back on track. So the Avengers, did you guys go see the Avengers in theaters?
Probably.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I did.
I saw it years ago. 3 times in theaters. It was awesome. So it was the first time our live action heroes got together and fought Loki, which Loki was actually the villain in the first Avengers comic. Came out in 2012. Features Iron Man, Thor, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Incredible Hulk, and Captain America. So what y'all think of the movie?
I mean, as far as I think they did a fantastic job getting the team and actually giving them proper motivations. I think I want to rack on DC a little bit. You see DC and their previous incarnation of a universe as kind of like they all get thrown together for the sake of being thrown together, whereas Avengers gave them proper motivation, and you could tell what each character is coming from and how they mesh in the group. And I think that was primarily accomplished by having all the different characters introduced in their separate films first, mm-hmm. and laying down the characters of who they are, and then I think they did an apt job of making the first Avengers movie kind of like a butting heads situation, because it makes sense. All these different characters from different backgrounds don't get along, and they have to have a catalyst to actually make them come together. I think they were very smart.
Yeah, it definitely helped that they each got their own movie, and we talked about this, whereas Justice League was like, let's give Superman and then also Superman and Batman and throw Wonder Woman in there, and then let's make the Justice League. Yeah. Let's introduce 3 characters in other movies, and then we'll add, what was it, Cyborg and the Flash? Is that it, right? Just those 3? Or those 2? Yeah.
And we're also going to tease John Jones.
I think they made it a little bit better with Zack Snyder, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, it definitely helped that they each got their own movie beforehand. And I think Iron Man
they had the freedom to do so. I mean, they had no competition.
Yeah, that's
Warner
true.
Brothers and Universal Pictures, their attempts at creating universes failed because they didn't have a cohesive vision. They wanted to, for whatever reason, try to compete as fast as they could. And obviously that's not going to work. But we'll see what
Universal
DCU...
Pictures.
I did something.
Universal Pictures?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you say so. The whole movie is, let's see, Loki comes down to take control of Earth.
I hate Loki in the movie. He's like a comedic, snarky person.
He's not even comedic.
Is he like that in the comics, or is that just
I mean,
Tom Hiddleston's interpretation?
If you notice,
like all these gods are like jokes.
Yeah. From the Avengers, each Avengers movie, it's like, especially Loki, like specifically Loki, he takes himself less seriously as the movies go by. You know what I mean? So like in the first movie, he's like, I come with glad tidings. It's like nobody says I come with glad tidings, and then eventually he starts speaking like a human would, like in Thor Ragnarok, he's just, cool.
Well, even Thor
Loki
started speaking off like with that regal dialogue and diction, and then he essentially
exactly.
became
He tried to speak
more
like
human.
royalty or something, and then
Yeah.
eventually he met, Jane Foster and all this in the Avengers and stuff, and kind of started changing his not his dialect, but just the way he spoke.
And his eating habits.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's so funny. That's a whole other conversation we'll get to. And then in 2015, Age of Ultron came out. So tell me what you thought about Age of Ultron going into it before you saw the movie.
I don't remember really much, but I just know James Spader is Ultron. I love his voice.
Yeah, he was on The Office, season 8 of The Office as Robert California, and that's where I like. He had been in other stuff like Seinfeld and some other random things, but I first saw James Spader on The Office. So when I found out he was announced as Ultron, I was super excited. And then I watched a little bit of The Blacklist. I didn't get that far into it before I stopped watching it, but when I found out he was Ultron, I was like, "This is going to be awesome," and it was. I thought James Spader did great as Ultron.
I don't know why was it so divisive, this Avengers movie compared to others. I guess it wasn't as well received.
Yeah, it wasn't. This is like the the least well received one of the bunch because I honestly don't know. I think with the story, I don't know. Like it
I
seemed
personally liked it.
I mean, I did too. I love Age of Ultron, but for some reason, people find something wrong with with sequels and stuff, and I'm like I guess maybe Ultron wasn't like he was in the comics and stuff, and I don't know.
Not
People
as
need
powerful.
yeah,
I guess in some comic iterations, he's on the level of Thanos.
yeah, he is, and like even in what if he becomes essentially Vision and Thanos and Ultron mixed together. I think that was a problem, and it's like I don't know. People don't understand. I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here. You don't understand what the word adaptation means. It's not like a straight translation. It's an adaptation. We're taking a property and adapting it to the screen, meaning there's things that will work and there's things that won't. If Ultron was too powerful, they wouldn't have been able to defeat him in that movie. And then what? Then where they're going to go?
Mhm.
Just like people blow my mind with getting upset that things aren't comic accurate. It's like, well, that's why they call it the Marvel Cinematic Universe and not just the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
So that they can have some freedoms to do different things that will work better on screen than they did in the comics, And so like Ultron, if he was crazy powerful, it's like, well, what's the point? What's the point in making a movie about Ultron? Let's just throw I don't know. I almost said the Silver Surfer, but the Silver Surfer was actually apparently pretty powerful in the comics too. It's like, let's just get Doctor Doom in there, let them kick his ass for a little while, and then go on to the next movie.
Kind of like a one shot villain of the week type of situation where they could have maybe built up Ultron in previous movies somehow. Then it maybe would have been more menacing, like they built up Thanos.
Thanos, yeah, like Thanos was a different story because he was built up. He was shown briefly throughout these movies, and then it's like, boom, there he is.
When was he first seen?
He was first seen in Avengers.
Was he first seen in Avengers?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, it was because he's who gave Loki the staff.
Yeah, he was the one that sent Loki down, and at the end, they said something about the Avengers being stronger than they thought, and to court them would be to court death. And I don't know if y'all know anything about. And then Avengers, Thanos turns around and smiles at the camera. I don't know if you know this about Thanos, but in the comics, Thanos is in love with death.
He's a simp.
Yeah, he's in love with death, like as a person, as a woman.
Yeah, Lady Death.
So that it's just it is kind of weird how that cutscene. He's like the court then would be to court death. It's like
oh,
that was the only mention of death and Thanos wanting to court death.
I wonder where in the production pipeline Thanos went from being like the eternal simp he is for Lady Death into like an eco-terrorist.
I don't know.
Because I'm probably like when Avengers Verse came out, they probably were going with that angle of courting death.
Right. I think in the comics, he was doing all this, trying to collect the stones and everything to impress death.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what
Not
he's doing.
yeah, not just to, wipe out half the universe and so that everybody would be better off or whatever
Oh
his
yeah,
plan was.
there's no noble goals in the
Yeah.
comics. It's literally like he's killing half the universe as like essentially a Valentine's Day gift. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, look at me.
I got all these stones now. It's
Yeah,
like
I got all these souls for you. Let me smash.
yeah.
Yeah, the apparent lady that was going to be in the, I guess, Infinity War, but the Russo brothers decided not to because they didn't feel like they had enough time, or it's better to focus on Thanos. I'm reading an
Also,
article.
I mean, I think it's kind of like they had to change Thanos' character to give him a
Motivation.
arguably noble goal. They turned him into a relatable, sympathetic villain as opposed to just like this
A straight villain.
psychopathic, straight up murderer. Like they gave him a gravitas and an emphasis in the film that honestly made Avengers Infinity War. Endgame is still good, but Avengers Infinity War, I think, is the best Avengers movie
Yeah.
by far.
Well,
And that is largely owed to the fact that it's really a movie about Thanos himself,
Well, yeah.
not the Avengers.
Yeah.
So
And
they had to have a solid character to work on for that.
yeah, let's go ahead and start talking about Infinity War. So Infinity War came out in 2018. And I remember going to see Infinity War, and it didn't kind of like what you said with the Eternals. It didn't really feel like a Marvel movie, mainly because you kind of knew what was going to happen. Like there was this like dark looming presence throughout the whole movie until it happens. Until he snaps in the swingers and half the universe is gone. So like that's the kind of vibe I got when watching that movie. And it was kind of I don't want to say uncomfortable, but it was like you kind of had a bad feeling the whole time. And it was kind of hard for me to enjoy it the first time, to be honest. And I never thought about this until just now. But like I did enjoy it, but like the whole time I just kind of had this bad feeling. And I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I probably should have the
What did
first
you
time.
want
Almost
to
like
happen?
something was inevitable.
Yeah, I am.
So it was a good feeling. Like it's what the movie intended.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so.
To feel, right?
If that's
Yeah.
what they intended, then that's how they did their job. Because like for me, I went and saw it, and I went to see it at Movie Tavern, which probably was the first mistake. Don't go see a movie like that at the Movie Tavern. And if for those of you who don't know what the Movie Tavern is, it's a movie theater that like has servers and stuff. And so they're like walking in front of you, and you can hear
Smaller
people.
screens.
Yeah, you can hear people ordering, and it seems like even though the seats go up, it seems like they're farther back from the screen. I don't know. We were at the very top, so that probably could have been an issue too. Because I think when I ordered the tickets, there really wasn't that many places to sit, and there were three of us. So in retrospect, I should have went to see it like an IMAX, which is what I did for Endgame. If that was their goal, was to make me feel like oh my God, this movie, there's like I don't know what's going to happen yet. I mean, I know what's going to happen. I just don't know when, and I don't know how.
What was one of the more uncomfortable deaths? I thought Vision's, initial death was interesting.
Oh yeah, he
the
actually
stone like literally like taken out of his soul taken out of his
Twice.
head essentially, right? Twice.
Well,
That's brutal.
she Scarlet Witch
Well, first she blew him up.
blew it up, yeah, and killed him, and then he reversed time and he took it out again. He died twice.
And he like
So
turns into like this like pale color or something.
Yeah, well,
I
he's
thought that
an
was like weird.
android.
That was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that death was interesting because Scarlet Witch, which let me go ahead and say, I didn't realize at the time that Scarlet Witch and Vision were a thing in the comics because I mean I like comics and everything, but I'm not super caught up on all the comics. So like I didn't realize they were a thing. So when I saw that they were like together in a hotel together, I'm like what the hell's going on? Like why are they
in
dating?
the MCU, was Vision created by Ultron?
Yeah, Vision was Ultron's intention. He wanted to build, at least in the MCU, he wanted to build Vision and take his body over.
Yeah, take his body, which is what happened in What If. He ends up taking his body, and then also taking the stones. Y'all see that episode of What If? Whenever he comes up, I guess he goes to Titan or something, and he just like slices Thanos in half and takes the gauntlet, and it's like why didn't Vision?
Why didn't our guy do that?
Yeah, like he could have just done it real quick, but I think he was hurt the whole time.
The Mind Stone.
But anyway, yeah, so Vision, he even calls him his Vision. But then luckily Thor came to the rescue and was like, I'm going to jumpstart this bad boy and creates him. And thank God he was a good guy. Of course, we knew he was going to be a good guy.
I think especially like in Infinity Wars, Loki's death. I think I was like in the first 15 minutes, like it essentially opens and Loki just straight up gets killed, neck snapped.
Well, it's because he's an idiot,
and he gets like paler than he usually is. Like veins popping out of his neck.
Yeah, the veins popping out of the brutality of that.
His eyes
the
bloodshot.
Callousness. I was gonna say you just knew exactly what kind of movie you were gonna see.
That was scary though, because he just squeezed his neck. It looked like he barely did anything.
He got like gorilla grip,
and then he just dropped him. I assume you two went to see Avengers: Infinity War in theaters.
I saw Avengers: Infinity War in a drive-through theater.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, you told us that.
Yeah,
you did tell us.
It was pretty fun. We watched something. It was a two-parter. We watched something before it, and then
I don't know if I could have. Right, I don't know if I could have enjoyed it at a drive-in theater. I mean, I barely enjoyed it at freaking a theater that served you food.
No, it was real fun. We snuck in some alcohol with us, and we had a good time.
I'm sure. What about you, Zachariah?
I'm sure I saw it in the theater.
God, you don't remember going to the theaters ever? Do you remember the time we went to theaters, Zach?
Yeah, because it's movies I cared about.
You didn't care about Infinity War?
Yeah, I'm not a big Marvel guy.
Oh yeah, you like DC
movies. What's
your take on Infinity War then, Zach?
Not as good as I prefer with the solo movies, to be honest. Not really the Avengers movies in general. Like I like the first Iron Man, Captain America. I don't know. I just those movies resonated with me more. I think there's too many characters.
That makes sense.
You can't really focus on one person's story. I mean, I watch at least the Marvel movies from just a story, emotional feel standpoint, and I don't know. The Avengers movies are fun, that's for sure. But I don't know. For me, I just like the more couple character focuses and their struggles and their triumphs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the music, I'm a big music guy, and the Avengers they have a great theme. It's always performed like the intro.
We're not going to get copyright strike, man.
You don't know. Disney could be listening.
There is a reasonable use clause.
That is not okay. What it's called. It's called fair use, and we're not educating people.
It's for commentary as well.
Whatever. Okay, finish your statement, Zach. I'm sorry.
Anyways, yeah, the music of Marvel, like the main theme, are one of the highlights of the movies.
I would agree, and I think it's changed a lot. I think it's like I do enjoy it especially in the first movie, but I think once it gets to Endgame, it just seems like it's a lot more. What's what I'm looking for? More of a staple, I guess. It's a lot more full, a lot more energized, I guess. But we should do an episode on the music of Marvel. I think, or the Marvel scores, and maybe even DC. But DC doesn't really have memorable scores to me.
Yeah, the marvelous Marvel music.
Yeah,
marvelous. The Marvel movies have more of a traditional symphonic score, whereas the DC,
even like
more more synthesized and digital tones of Hans Zimmer and non-melodic melodies.
Right, I agree. And like even like the solo movies had good scores. Like I remember in even like Thor: The Dark World, which is like one of the most hated MCU movies that came out. I remember thinking, oh, this music's really good, And so I think we could do a whole episode on the Marvel music.
Cool. The audio guy at my old church used to play the Avengers theme music for like walk in and walk out music. So we like have a sermon, and then you're like the Avengers theme.
That's
once
so
the
funny.
sermon was over.
Because the people there probably didn't know what it was.
Oh, they had no idea. All these boomers had no idea. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is straight up. Where's Captain
Avengers.
America, man?
That's hilarious. Good for him. Just playing whatever the crap he wants. So, of course, we know how the Avengers Infinity War ends is snap of the finger. And then I think, is it that one that we see? No, I was going to say we see Captain Marvel for the first time, but no, Captain Marvel came out before Infinity War came out.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a whole movie of her. I think the only thing about Captain Marvel I really liked, and I know we're not talking about that, but was the 90s aesthetic. Samuel Jackson in young face, and the music, not the score. I don't remember the score from that movie, but the
Like the soundtrack.
Yes, the soundtrack was good. But that's because I grew up in the 90s, so I was like, I know all these. It's kind of nice build up to the Marvel.
Captain Marvel is building up to Endgame.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because the post credit scene was in Captain Marvel.
Yeah, the post credit scene in Infinity War is Fury sending the beeper.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
And then we get Marvel, and then we get Endgame.
Yeah, and at the end of Marvel, she's like, "Where's Fury?" Okay, I remember now. One of my favorite scenes in that movie, and the music goes with this too. Like the whole, like the visual, the music, and just what happens is whenever Thanos has completed his goal, and he just goes to that planet and just sits and looks out into the field. And then that music plays. You know what I'm talking about, Zach? Or Jake? I just thought that I was like, this is a nice scene. Like, even though he just did something pretty bad, like, this is a nice thing. Like, he had completed his goal. Like, he completed his mission. He was good.
I mean, Infinity War was about Thanos.
Yeah.
Like, he was the main character.
I guess I never thought about it until, just till you
when he gets
it.
his head chopped off.
That's an end game, though. But that's funny.
Endgame.
Because, Thor went for the head. I guess I never thought about it like that, how it's kind of Thanos' movie, but it totally is. Like, it totally makes sense that, this is for Thanos, like, because he completes his goal. So I guess.
Yeah, it's essentially, I mean, he is essentially
the protagonist
of the film.
Man, that blows my mind. I never thought about it until just now. Like, if you think about it like that, and I think I should watch this movie again with that in my head, being like, this is Thanos' movie. Thanos is the protagonist. And I wonder if I'll have a different experience watching it than I did before. Because I've seen the movie a few times, 5 or 6 times,
I'm grinning ear to ear, just I'm so glad I was able to bring that to you.
I never thought about it. I just, it's an Avengers movie. It's called The Avengers. It's not called Thanos. So the Avengers are the protagonists. But I will say, they tried their hardest, those Avengers. And then they all died, or half of them died. I will say one of my favorite parts whenever they and it's probably felt something more than I felt when Peter Parker, got zapped or dusted away, was whenever T'Challa's like, General, this is no place to die, and he tries to pick her up, and then he vanishes and she falls down. I thought that was pretty sad because all of a sudden now their king is gone. All right, let's move on to Endgame. So that came out a year later, 2019. So half the universe has been dusted, and
how does it open? I forgot how the movie opens.
It
One of the first scenes
in space.
Like Captain America in a. Oh yeah, it does. Yeah.
Opens in space with Tony and Nebula
in the ship.
Yeah, in the ship, and they get it started for a little bit, but then it dies again, and so Tony's super skinny and he's about to die, and then Captain Marvel shows up, brings him down. And actually, you might be right.
Sorry, I thought I remember Captain America in a.
Well, that's what I was just thinking.
Like a PTSD group.
Oh no, that wasn't at the beginning of the movie. That was, it was. I don't know, man. Now I need to watch that movie.
I think you're right. I think it opened with Tony in the spaceship.
Yeah, I guess I need to watch it again.
But I remember Captain America.
That is part of it.
I think, fun fact, I think one of the directors.
Yeah, he's in there. He's the one that has a story about going on a date, and they talk about whatever, and he cries, and because he's gay, like his character is gay, and so he's like he cried, at this time, and I cried at this time. So yeah, he talks about going on a date. That was, I don't know which Russo the brother that was, but it was one of them. And so anyway,
Good actor.
yeah, he was, for his small part, he was actually like really good. I believed him. And so yeah, we save Tony. That would be Captain Marvel's doing, saving Tony and whatever. And then there was that really good scene with what's his face, Robert Downey Jr. Like it really like shows me how good of an actor he actually is. Just that sometimes he picks stupid movies like Doolittle, and I'm like, oh boy. So
I'm waiting for the third Sherlock to come out.
Oh, Sherlock was
I think
good.
Sherlock. Dude,
Sherlock. I saw the first one.
Sherlock.
Yeah, I saw the first one. He was also good in this movie called The Judge. If you've ever seen The Judge, watch that movie.
I have it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's so good. Like,
have you watched it though?
Yeah, have you watched it, Zach?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just buy movies and store them.
There, I have movies that in my collection that I've never seen.
I have some movies of mine as well that I haven't seen.
Yeah,
that's weird.
You're weird. I actually have some movies that since I moved into this house that I still haven't watched that I bought. There's movies I haven't seen.
Are they in boxes or are they all on the shelf?
No, the ones that were at my old house are in boxes. The ones that I bought since I lived here are in my closet. Because there's like a shelf. There's a bunch of shelves in the closet, and there's like one of my shelves has all my games, the other one has all the movies. So,
oh no, I looked at the synopsis. The opening of Endgame actually starts with Clint Barton.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's whenever. That's right. Oh man, I can't believe I forgot that. He starts with Clint, and he loses his whole family. That's when he loses his whole family. I remember now. Oh man.
Snap.
Yeah, they all disappear. Because that's whenever he's like, who eats mayonnaise on a hot dog?
That is weird.
Yeah. That's the weirdest part of that movie. Because she says, y'all want ketchup? Or what did she say? Y'all want mustard or mayonnaise? And then she says, who eats mayonnaise on a hot dog?
That makes me think, though, what was Clint doing in Infinity War? Was he even in Infinity War?
No, he wasn't. Ant-Man, neither Scott nor Hawkeye were.
Wait, the Hulk.
Oh, you know what? No, he was in. He was in Endgame. Dang it! Whenever he did that whole killing spree, that was an Endgame.
Yeah,
I guess he wasn't in Infinity War. I mean, he was, but he wasn't in the movie. He was there in the universe. It just wasn't in the movie. Man,
what's he doing?
He's just hanging out with his family, I guess.
He's just chilling. Everyone's off in the galaxy fighting. He's just eating hot dogs.
How many years was it for the people that weren't?
5.
Snap. 5. I wish we had series in between focusing on like Black Widow and. I mean, I don't know how exciting it would be, but make it a character-driven drama. Keep it like 6 episodes. I'd be pleased with that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
so we got some glimpses. I thought we did of. I thought with like Black Widow during certain scenes. Was it Endgame? Perhaps. I don't know.
Well, Black Widow, we learned. Oh no, not Black Widow. Either Black Widow or in Hawkeye, we learned that her sister was snapped. I don't know. There's been random instances where we learn kind of what happened.
What if Daredevil? I don't think Daredevil was snapped. To be honest, I don't think he was.
I haven't watched She-Hulk yet, so don't spoil it for me.
You're not missing much.
Said something. Somebody mentioned it the other day, and they're like, "I like him in She-Hulk." I'm like, and I just like stuck my fingers in my ears, and I was like, "La la la la," like super loud because I was like, "Do not." So I'm going to watch She-Hulk, regardless if it's good or not, because like this a Marvel show. Like I gotta watch it. It's
good, but just totally over the top.
Well, I still haven't finished Miss Marvel, so I need to finish that first, and then I'll watch She-Hulk.
I haven't watched that either.
It was getting pretty good.
I was looking up why he wasn't in it. Apparently, according to the Russo brothers, he was under house arrest.
Oh, that's right.
Avengers,
Civil War. That's not Avengers. That's Captain America.
He was following the rules.
That's right. I remember now because I think he had him and Scott both, or at least Scott had an ankle monitor because
Oh yeah, well Scott
in
had
Ant-Man and the Wasp he had the ankle monitor.
I remember last the Civil War ended with them in a
Oh yeah,
like
in
a
that
sea
prison.
prison,
Sea
right?
prison.
So I wonder if he was just like in a glass cage somewhere.
Well, no, he got broken out. They got broken out by Captain America at the very end of it.
Oh right, okay.
But then, because Scott was under house arrest, and then they put the thing on a rope or on an ant. Okay, so we excuse me, we
I mean, you know, as far as movie wise go, that ant's still out there just playing drums.
yeah, that's true. It's just chilling.
This is being chilling. Chilling.
All right, so Endgame. Let's finish up with not finish up with Endgame, but talk about Endgame so we can move on. So do you remember seeing Endgame in theaters, Zach, or was that one you don't know if you probably saw?
I've saw
it in theaters. That's what I meant. In theaters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see most of the big commercialized superhero flicks.
Well, we were still working at Channel 7 together. I think you went to see it before I did.
Yeah.
I think because I was going with an old friend from Channel 4, and he had gotten us a bunch of tickets. He makes a lot of money. He had gotten us a bunch of tickets, and so I showed up, and it was the Thursday night before it was officially releasing. So,
yeah,
the audience was full. It was completely full. And that was one of the first times that like I went somewhere and everybody's like, "Whoa, yeah, woohoo!" cheering. That was probably the best movie going experience I'd ever had. Seeing that movie in theaters was awesome, and I saw that movie 3 times in theaters. But it was awesome. I loved it, every minute of it, even the whole 3 hours.
It didn't feel like 3 hours at all.
No, I didn't. I could have went more. I mean, like I'm starting to like 3 hour movies if they're really good, like Batman. Avengers, Blonde was really good. I love that movie. And then Justice League, which was a 4 hour movie, like I could watch that again.
Are you talking about the
Zack Snyder?
Yeah.
Come on, yes, of course I'm talking about Zack Snyder. So yeah, so that movie,
not Joker. You saw that twice, right? You saw that.
Yeah, but that's
twice.
not a 3 hour movie.
Oh,
it's like 2.5 hours probably, but not 3. So what'd y'all think of Endgame? How was how was it? What did y'all think, first of all? Because at first, before the movie came out, I was like, I'm going to be so pissed if they use time travel to figure this out. And that's exactly what they did. So what did y'all think about that?
Endgame felt more disjointed to me. Don't get me wrong, it was still a good movie. And I sat through most of it just like totally enraptured. But in comparison specifically to Infinity War, it's a lot more disjointed. It almost felt like 3 separate movies that were put together. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Well, it almost felt like 3 separate smaller movies that were like 3 separate vignettes that were put together into a larger movie. Whereas Infinity War, you had all these different characters, you had all these different, situations they're jumping around, but it still felt cohesive, probably because Thanos tied it all together. But without Thanos as that main driving force, all the jumping around it felt less cohesive, and it was kind of harder to follow, and kind of until it got to the end where Thanos showed up again, it felt kind of non-directional. They didn't have a direction to really go in.
Was it as satisfying, like the defeat of Thanos, or no? Or just like, oh, just make it, let's let it happen. I think I cared more about seeing what happened after he was gone, like Captain America. I think his end and be able to grow old was pretty touching to watch.
That was pretty nice. Like I remember whenever he went and then he came back and he was just sitting on that bench and everybody's like, "Oh my God, is that him? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!" And then it was him. And I think he played a really good old man.
That was him, wasn't
Joe
it?
Biden.
Yeah, that was him. It's just they just aged him digitally.
And what was the last scene? What was the last scene of the movie? Was it him dancing?
Yeah, with Peggy.
Yeah, in their home.
Yep.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah.
Yep.
And was the old man scene? Was that a post credit or
no?
Where was that?
That was part of the movie.
No,
part of the movie.
There were no post credits.
It was in the denouement.
Okay.
portion.
Didn't know,
Tony
man.
died. They were returning the Pym particles and the stones to their
That's-
rightful place.
Whose mission was it to go
Project
back? Was it to
My mom's.
for I guess finding the stones or whatever? Was it Captain America?
To go back and put the stones back where they were.
Yeah. I feel like they could
It
have done
was
like maybe
Captain America's.
They just rushed through that in a way. I think they
literally
could
it lasted all of 5 seconds.
they could have done a series on that. I feel like.
Yeah, they could have, and they should. With Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine Captain America and the Returning of the Stones? That sounds like a Harry
Yes.
Potter movie, but whatever.
Yeah, I think that would have been great, but
That's
I feel
five episodes, maybe 6. You'd be good.
they tried to fit so much to wrap things up, so that's probably why it felt
the big question
a
was
little too much.
because the Soul Stone, who had the Soul Stone the whole time was effing Red Skull. So it was
Red
like,
Skull, who was
Yeah.
played by a different guy.
yeah, it was played by a different guy. But it's like I think if anything, everybody wanted to see their interaction. Like, how did he get the Soul Stone back to Red Skull
Yeah,
after sending him to that planet in the first place?
I don't think it would have been as explosive as people might think it is.
He'd be like, "Here's a stone. You can have it back. All right, see ya."
Yeah, at that point, I think Red Skull had kind of accepted his role as the watcher
the
for it.
protector of the stone. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's not like he could really it seemed like he was kind of bound
yeah, he was.
to that place. So it's not like he would necessarily try to get revenge or anything. He's probably just like, this is my duty now. This is what I gotta do.
I would be okay with like a conversation between the two. They don't have to fight. Like, I'd
That's
be
fair.
okay, and like an hour-long conversation. I would watch that. I mean, the conversation would have to be interesting.
Just a
And-
podcast with Captain America and
Red Skull. That'd be
I
kind
wonder
of cool.
if in the comics they talk.
But
I'm just
it'd be-
speculating.
Yeah, I know. It'd be cool. It'd be cool to see that interaction. If that interaction was 5 minutes long, be like, can we just get those two together real quick and be done with it? But whatever. I bet what it would be like Steve would have to fight people off before he got to the top of the mountain or something. Like, they'd add a bunch of crap that wasn't there in Infinity War. Or Infinity War and Endgame.
I imagine the conversation was very chill.
I would too, and then, and I'm okay with that. Like I said, I'm okay with just an hour-long car. It's like have you ever seen what is it called with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson? It's like The Marriage. Is that what it's called?
I think it is, yeah.
Marriage Story or something.
Marriage Story. That's what it's called. Marriage Story, and that's like, they have a lot of arguing in that movie, and I'm like, this is cool. I'm cool with this. Like, I'm cool with just talking. Like, not everything has to be. I mean, you probably don't want 3 hours of it, but not everything has to be like, actiony and stuff. Like, even if it was just them two talking. I don't know. Maybe he has a coffee maker up there. Make him some coffee. Anyway, okay. Anything else on Endgame before we move on? Well, I was going to talk about. This is all of them. Never mind. It was. I thought it was just the Avengers movies, but it's all Marvel Cinematic Universe movies ranked by Tomato Meter. You want to guess what number one is? Of course, or not, of course, but number one is, and it's
Infinity War.
and it's not just the Avengers. That's why I was going with that. Sorry,
I would say Infinity War
it's Black
or
Panther.
Endgame.
What?
Black Panther? Really?
The original Black Panther.
Why?
I don't know. To be honest with you, when I watched that movie, I was like, that was just okay.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't anything like to write home about. Endgame was number 2. Iron Man is number 3.
Wow.
I don't know when
Number
this list.
3.
Personally,
came out, though.
outside of Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, Iron Man is the number one film. I think it was and still is the best
Let's
Marvel
look at the
film.
last one.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Also a kind of a controversial. I don't think it's better than the original Iron Man, but I enjoyed Iron Man 2, especially like Mickey Rourke. Like, I enjoyed that movie. I don't know. People seem to not like it.
I really don't remember it that much, to tell you the truth.
That's okay.
Besides his house getting blown up and he has a briefcase.
Remember Iron Man 2008 was a year before Disney bought Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like,
Not saying that had anything to do with like the change and like
No,
the quality, but I feel like
Well,
there was
that
something
That definitely
special
explains a
about
lot because
Iron Man.
the entire structure of the original Iron Man is very, very different than the rest of the MCU. The first two, Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, feel very different from the rest of the
I would agree.
cinematic universe.
Well, I'm pretty sure that the Avengers was Walt Disney's first like Marvel movie that was released. Everything else was still, I guess, under the umbrella of Marvel Studios before, because I'm sure they were developing it by the time. You know what number 31 is of the whole list of MCU movies ranked by tomato meters?
Eternals.
The Eternals.
Eternals, I won. I didn't even see it.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is number 30.
Oof.
It apparently got.
Still haven't seen those movies.
Yeah,
I've heard bad things.
I mean, I enjoyed Quantumania.
I wish they had introduced Ant-Man as a more prominent character and helped like a creator of the Avengers. I think I would have maybe cared more about the character, maybe.
I feel like they're setting up Scott Lang to be that in.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. I think now it's kind of like going to be kind of Scott Lang's team now that
Scott and like Miss Marvel. Is it Marvel or Miss Marvel?
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah,
Miss Marvel's the
girl.
teenager.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I think that's kind of what their plan is. Okay, so
I don't think it's going to be as popular with people. Like all their old characters, like familiar faces. Not as many of them will be a part of the team. But hopefully, Spider-Man sticks with it. Yeah, I'm hoping there's there's just make it a Spider-Man movie. No, like other characters from the universe. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll see.
They need a Spider-Man movie where he doesn't have a mentor.
Yes.
Well, I think that at this point he's at that point where I think he's just going to be Spider-Man. Like that's kind of what I feel.
It's probably going to be the most mature
version
Peter
Spider-Man.
Parker. For sure.
Not only that, but like
at least for Tom Holland's.
Yeah, nobody knows who he is anymore. So
that's sad.
Yeah, like nobody knows. Let me rephrase. Nobody knows he's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Okay, so I found an article about Kevin Feige opens up about Phase 5, Kang, and the future of MCU. So I guess we're on Phase 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Avengers Endgame proved to be anything but the end for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and since then, the biggest superhero franchise in history has only continued to expand. After closing out the Infinity Saga in 2019 and killing off a few of its marquee players, Marvel turns its attention to the multiverse, kicking off Phase 4 with a slew of films and Disney, plus TV shows including WandaVision, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Kevin Feige. Okay, so the question was asked. So let's start with Ant-Man. Why was Quantumania the right film to kick off Phase 5 and introduce Kang the Conqueror? Kevin Feige. We wanted to kick off Phase 5 with a team of heroes that you already know. We knew we were going to do another Ant-Man film. It was always the idea to spend the majority of the time in the quantum realm. This place you've heard of about in movies and seen glimpses of it, we wanted to actually explore it.
I haven't seen the latest Ant-Man movie. Is the enemy's Kang, right?
Kang the Conqueror.
Is he going to be in future movies?
Oh, yeah. Because there's several Kang the Conquerors throughout the multiverse.
Is he menacing like Thanos at all? Or he seems like
well, his whole deal, Kang's whole deal is he's the multiversal, like, if you watch Loki, he's the multiversal, like,
Thanos
ruler, essentially. Like, he's the one that's kept everything in one universe so far. And I'm not going to spoil it, but Loki changes that. The series Loki changes that. And so then that's where all the variants come from and all the different versions of different people. And so there's, in the comics, there's literally, infinite supply of this guy. And they're bringing some of that into Marvel, where they're going to have different versions of his character. So like Loki, his character was kind of benevolent if you look at it from a certain angle. And then in like Quantumania, the dude's calls himself a conqueror, and then there's other versions that are going to show up with him throughout this next phase. So yeah, you'll be seeing a lot
of Kang.
Well, are they going to be played by different actors, or
nope?
No, Sam, because that's the whole deal. He's the guy who in the MCU, he's the guy who essentially created or found multiversal travel based off of Stark's time travel thing. He built off that and became the first multiversal traveler. And so it's all the same actor who's playing him. Jonathan Majors?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jonathan Majors. All right, let's see. What was it about Jonathan Majors that made him the right fit for this? Like you said, he's playing multiple versions of this villain. Okay, so I guess he was in The Last Black Man in San Francisco, which I really wanted to see, but I never got to because it didn't show in anywhere close to me. Was a huge reason we cast him. Peyton Reed was a proponent of Jonathan's from the very start. We knew we were casting him for at least Loki season 1 and Quantumania at the same time, working with both the Loki team and Peyton and the Mania team, excuse me. We thought Jonathan would be incredible for their different incarnations of this character, and spoiler, he was. I guess they're calling phases 4, 5, and 6 the multiverse saga, as opposed to the Infinity Saga. I didn't know that.
And I will say, out of all the villains and different movies that they've created since Phase 4 after Avengers Endgame, Kang the Conqueror feels the most impactful. Like all the other movies, I was kind of like, oh, that's a fun movie, but I haven't really felt like it's made a difference in the Marvel universe as a whole. But with Loki and the introduction of Jonathan Major's character, he's the first one where he actually has some gravitas to the character, and it's like, oh, this dude means business, and he's gonna be a big pain.
Yeah, he to me, I thought Ant-Man did really well at setting him up as a villain, as well as setting the future of the MCU up. Like I thought, and I want to see it again to kind of understand. Like I understood it, but I want to hear it again to understand kind of Kang's whole deal, because he seems very interesting. Like Thanos was cool, right? And I understood his whole motivation, but that was it. With Kang, it seems a lot bigger, and I think that's the whole idea. That's why they call it the multiverse saga. Because it's like you can't have a multiverse and have this character that's one dimensional. He's got to feel larger than life, and I think with Kang, that's how they're doing it, and that's how it seems. It's pretty cool the way they kind of explain it in Quantumania, and you kind of get a feel for Kang, kind of starting out, because you kind of learn about him in Loki, but I feel like he wasn't really that big of a deal at the time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The character that you see in Loki, for all intents and purposes, is the variant that won, and so you don't really see him as the conqueror. He's just kind of like this benevolent ruler. He's just like the guy.
Yeah.
And so, he's just kind of like this mysterious figure. And now we're actually getting into the meat of like all the different variants of that character and the mayhem that they cause and the different motivations that they each have, because each variant has their own motivations. Some of them agree with it, some of them don't. Some want control, some want it all to go away. So in the comics, he even fights himself a lot of times.
I bet you he'll do that. I bet you they do something like that.
I know they have already introduced or have said that there's like a character of his called like Justin Timely or something like that, and that's a direct pull from the comics, where like he essentially, if I believe correctly, he's defeated and he goes back in time and assumes a new identity, and kind of like lives in the past or something like that. Lots of different stuff.
I wonder. Ooh, did you watch Ant-Man, Jake?
I haven't watched Ant-Man. I haven't seen Black Panther. And I haven't seen the latest Ant-Man.
Come to me when you've seen Ant-Man, and let's talk about what you just said. Okay?
Okay.
I'm not going to read this whole article, but it seems like we're introduced to the two Avengers movies, which was Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. After Endgame, I was kind of, because Zach, you and I have talked about this a little bit. It's like we're kind of over the whole franchise, the MCU franchise and stuff, and we're basically watching these shows and movies because they're part of a franchise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so with Ant-Man, it's kind of re-sparked something in me where I'm like, okay, I'm pretty excited to see what's going to happen from here. because with all these different shows like Moon Knight and WandaVision and Loki were great shows, both really good shows. I would totally agree with you there, Jake. Like I loved both of those shows, and Moon Knight was cool. Moon Knight's a weird character, and I was really excited.
I want to see more of him.
Yeah, well, I want to see
Moon Knight.
Yeah, I want to see more of him. And like I read a little bit of the Moon Knight comics. It was a newer comic, and I was like, this guy's so weird. Like I don't understand anything about him. And because like I said, I've read comics here and there, but never faithfully read them. And so I found the Moon Knight comic at a comic book store, and I was like, I'm gonna buy this. And I read the first one, and that was it. But I was like, man, this guy's weird. Like he looks cool. He's just all white, He's supposed to be like this knight, almost like Batman, and they call him Marvel's answer to Batman. And I'm like, well, yeah, except for the fact that he has multiple personalities. Like,
Is he a billionaire?
No. I think the thing is he has like this side of him that's like a detective kind of. The police use him to help with cases and stuff, and so like that's why they call him their answer to Batman. But it's like no, not really.
And
so,
Daredevil's more of that.
Yeah, I would agree totally. And so like even when Endgame ended and we started getting all these Disney shows, and I'm just like, oh my god, like watching these shows, and I'm like Hawkeye, I think was the last good show that I watched where I was like, I'm gonna watch this show because it's a Marvel show. And then I started watching. I was like, oh my god, this is actually really good. Like you take Hawkeye out of the Avengers, and he's actually worth watching because he's a guy that shoots a bow and arrow with a guy who is a god. It's like
never runs out of arrows.
Yeah, and it's like it's hard to watch. It's hard to watch a guy who shoots bow and arrows when you have Iron Man and Incredible Hulk and Thor. It's like in Captain America, it's like whatever, Hawkeye, cool. But you put him in his own show, and I was like, man, this is actually a really good show. Don't care for Kate Bishop, but whatever, that's a whole other story. But then like they just started making more and more and more. But then I watched Ant-Man, and I was like, okay. I was like, I am really excited to see where this goes now. To see, what they come up with and who they bring into the MCU and how they resolve it.
X-Men.
Okay.
Fantastic Four.
Okay, we'll see. I would love to see Deadpool up in Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty. That'd be cool.
I think he's coming out in a couple years from now.
Yeah, I think
so. Technically he's in phase 6. It'll be a few years before we get Deadpool.
I'm just saying, like
with Wolverine.
Yeah. Well, yeah, with Logan. That's gonna be cool. So, any last thoughts about the Avengers and kind of the future of the MCU and all that stuff?
Again, I'm more interested in what's going to come with like these new teams, like Fantastic Four. Hopefully, there's MCU does it justice. We've had so many iterations of that team.
Yeah,
so, not so many, but we've had a couple at least, and I didn't mind them. But I guess overall, the public didn't, and it's not going to fit with. Well, the last Fantastic Four wasn't even connected to. It wasn't an MCU product. So, and then obviously X-Men. I don't know what direction they're going to take with that. And have a new Wolverine, etc. Be interesting to see. So, from that perspective, I'm more interested in those type of things. I'm not really. I'll watch, of course, like the next build up to the next Avengers movie, but I'm more interested in like individual characters.
Yeah, I will say I did really enjoy seeing John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic.
It's funny to watch him die so quickly.
Yeah,
people
really fast.
Their panties in a bind over him dying so quickly. It's like, come on.
Yeah, like you knew this wasn't gonna last. Like even I knew that when I saw him, but I was really excited. But then he died, and I was like, oh,
But they did a new actor. I think it'd be weird to see him. I don't know, back in that position and somehow.
Well, one
stronger than can be.
That's the thing with the multiverse is they can bring anyone back to do anything.
That's what I was just going to say. Like, if he's
a different attitude then because he was too cocky or like arrogant. I felt like in that movie.
I mean that's kind of the character though. If you read a lot of the Fantastic Four, if you read a lot of the Fantastic Four comics, Reed Richards causes most of his problems.
I like the one in the young version in that latest.
Okay.
I could sympathize with him. I don't know. I could be more on a level.
Miles Teller did look good as Mr. Fantastic. Like I thought the the casting choices in that movie were good. Like
It
they
was a
were
good
just
young
fine.
cast.
Yeah, but the story was just whatever. But I thought the casting was great. Like I would love to see John Krasinski and Emily Blunt as Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Girl. But what are you gonna do? I'm not the cast director. But anyway, what about you, Jake? Your last thoughts?
I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm interested to see if they're gonna continue creating kind of these in-cap Avenger films like they did, or if they're gonna stop doing them kind of like they did in this past phase. Phase 4 didn't have an Avengers movie. After Avengers Endgame, we haven't had an Avengers movie.
I'm okay with that.
And I feel like as a whole, the MCU has kind of suffered for that a little bit. It's felt very um it hasn't really had a direction. It's been very experimental, very like, these one-off things. But I feel like they really need something to bring everyone back together.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that they do that with Kang. But I'll see. I'll be interested to see if they continue this model that they're doing currently, if they go back to the old model and start producing more of these Avenger team-up movies again.
That'd be cool. I would be okay with seeing
sure, the multiple little
young
build-ups.
Avengers. Yeah, some of these young Avengers appearing in other movies and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are multiple build-ups, like in addition to the Avengers, like with these other big teams are going to be introduced, like Fantastic Four, X-Men. They're going to have their own series of movies to lead to something exciting, which I'm excited for.
One X-Men property I am excited about is, Disney Plus is creating X-Men 97, which is basically a reboot of the X-Men cartoon from 97.
Nice.
And apparently they're going to have 4 seasons of that. So I thought, if y'all have ever seen any, I haven't seen very many. I've seen, I think it's called The Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It's an animated show. It's actually pretty good. I really enjoyed it. So I'm like, all right, I'll check out one of these, this X-Men 97. Hopefully it's kind of the same aesthetic as the X-Men cartoon was.
Hand drawn. That'd be nice.
Yeah. I mean, basically, I'm sure it's not going to be, but if it looks like it, I won't know the difference. It's like
most of the DC animated universe movies are hand drawn, but lately they've started doing the CGI stuff. I don't know. I guess it's cheaper.
Yeah, it probably is a lot cheaper than having to pay somebody, 100,000 hours to draw a whole movie.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? All right, cool. Well, that was our conversation about I guess what more like, instead of just the Avengers in the future of the MCU. Thank you for listening. And as always, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google, what is it called? Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. Yeah. And also on YouTube. So yeah, check us out and, let us know what you think or give us any comments you might have. If you want to leave us a review, please do. And if it's a bad review, leave it so we can learn and get better at our craft here. That would be great. And so, yeah, check us out. And if you have any ideas for episodes or anything like that you want us to talk about, then, let us know and we'll try to get to them. Hopefully we'll pick one of yours. Am I right? All right, cool. So, yep. Thanks for listening and have a fantastic day.
You said the thing.
Bye.